Bolivia, you were telling us at 14,000 feet how you didn't go to the doctor and you were feeling well and...
Okay. At the time, I was private secretary to the British ambassador in La Paz, Bolivia. And I knew I was pregnant. And I think about the fifth, must have been about the 5th month, there was a missionary, American missionary, Methodist, tiny hospital in La Paz. And so I went to the doctor and he checked me. And then when you're up around 8 to 15,000 feet and pregnant, you have to take vitamin K because of the blood 10 days before delivery. So I went down and stayed at the hospital and took the vitamin K. It was a very easy. You see, in my day, there was no preparation for labor, none. You just had the baby when it came. It might take a long time, it might not. So I don't remember it as a problem at all. It was, Doug couldn't face anything like that, so I was alone in the room. And the nurse came and checked on me periodically. Yeah. So that was quite normal. That's just a minor story, a very easy minor story, in a beautiful, beautiful country. Then we moved to, Shelley was about 10 days old when we took the Queen Mary from New York to London, and I stayed 3 months. So Shelley stayed in that house, that Tudor house, for 3 months of her life. Then Doug went out to Peru. I went out on a freighter, no doctor, nothing, a freighter with Shelley from London all the way to, I guess I was 2, maybe 3 weeks on the freighter. On the freighter there were about 25 passengers. There was a stewardess who also was more or less an RN, English, and had a wonderful time. She was, the stewardess looked after the baby when I couldn't, and so on down the line. And Shelley's first trip at 3 months, at exactly that size, 3 months old, was on a limousine. You call it a limousine. A Rolls Royce. A Rolls Royce put on the wheels of a railroad track, which came right down to the harbour. They took me off the ship with the baby in a basket because the boat couldn't moor to the harbour, so they put me off and dropped me on the side of the harbour. And we went on up over 18,000 feet. And normally babies turn blue, but she didn't, fortunately. Crossed Lake Titicaca, of course, on the boat. And up in Cerro de Pasco, which is a copper mine, is at 18,000 feet. That's where the train stopped. And there we got in a truck which Doug drove for, I think it was 10 hours.
Wow. What was he doing in Peru?
Building a dam.
Yeah.
Electrical side. Yeah. That's what he did everywhere. And nothing but llamas, vicuñas, just all of the cameloids. Now, very seldom. Occasionally you'd see an Indian with a llama and the bowler hat and all the skirts, etc. So we finally got down to about, I think we lived at 6,000 feet, right looking down on the jungle. And Shelley was fine. My houseboy was about 16, spoke Quechua, and we both learnt to use Quechua and English in combination. And I taught him to make bread and everything. And Shelley was perfectly happy down there. There are a couple of photographs of that period.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I got pregnant. There were that was a totally new area. No people had ever lived there before. So there were about 5 foreign families. There were 2 Canadian and 3 American. They were the project managers. Doug was one of the Canadians. Then there were the Danes, who were the middle construction leaders. And then there were the Indians, who were labor. Mm. So they built a village for the Indians, and they bought a small area with little bungalows for the foreigners. So that's how we lived for 3 years. And I went up once to Cerro de Pasco. This is 10 hours on a rough road with nothing but llamas and begonias. And the doctor checked me there, and then I was about 5 months. And he said, everything's fine, but I want you to come over the 18,000 before the 2nd week, 2 weeks before delivery. They were afraid I might abort at 18,000. I didn't even think about it. So Doug and I went back. You know, it just occurred to me only a few days ago, you know, Doug never showed any real interest. I mean, we were having a baby, so it never occurred to him to ask, do you feel all right, or would you like me to take you and leave you in Lima or something?
That seemed like his personality, though.
Yeah.
From what I remember about him, he was very...
Engineer.
Very, yeah.
Engineers are not don't live on that level at all, let me tell you. Neither do I. So I stayed there, and it was very enjoyable. We had a little social life down there, and we were pretty confined because it was on the mountain, yeah. And we couldn't go down into the jungle easily. Not there was any, you couldn't go for a walk in the jungle. I mean, it's full of boa constrictors and God knows what. So then it was 2 weeks before I was due to deliver. And for some reason, to get down to the camp, yes, that's very interesting, after 10 hours on this rough road, there was the flatbed with nothing to hold on to on the end, and it was on a rail, and Doug said, this is how we get home. Home was 1,000 feet below. The flatbed was on 2 heavy wires. So we got on the flatbed, which had nothing on it except us at the time, and we were dropped 1,000 miles. 1,000 feet. I have never been afraid of heights. Your mother is petrified of heights.
She is, yeah. She is.
I wonder if that day, she was only 3 months old, it couldn't be. That's silly. Okay, to get out of there, I refused. I now am pregnant. I now have this in my arms. At this time, Shelley was 14 months. So they found a white mule, and they put me and Shelley on the white mule, and I went on the mule up 1,000 feet, back up to the road. 10 hours on the road, of course, you know, nothing in the car, no seat belts. I mean, life is very difficult today. Much more comfortable, stress-free then. So, got down to Lima.
No lawyers in that little town, right? That's why.
Got down to, went through Cerro de Pasco. The doctor said, you're fine, go on down to Lima. And I think when the Americans at Cerro de Pasco, I think when they were pregnant, they still delivered up there because there was a doctor there. So we stayed in pension an old English woman ran like a bed and breakfast. And we stayed there, and I remember taking Shelley in a canvas buggy thing that I bought in Buenos Aires. And, right, I was feeling perfectly normal. Checked in at a doctor at a hospital. I think it was, I had a Peruvian doctor there. And then I woke up at midnight one night to go to the toilet. I got to the toilet, that was fine. And I started to walk back to the room. And Sharon was literally born. So, you know, my only panic was, I don't know where the scissors are. That's the only thing I thought. Fortunately, there was a single woman in the bedroom next to me, so on the way back with Sharon half-born, I knocked on the door and she went for help. And Sharon was born within seconds. I got to the bed. And then the lady who owned it knew there was a Peruvian doctor living on the corner. This was midnight. And he came and cut the cord.
Wow.
So, well, it's funny. That was great.
It's a very different experience from what people go through now, right?
Yeah.
And you know, Evan, because of my life for so long in the third world, with constant traumas,
Yeah, right.
I think it's making it much harder